Hello everyone, welcome to CNA, the daily newspaper analysis. So today we have got the following contents that you can see on your screen. So let's start with. So the first topic directly goes with India-Iran signing a pact to aid movement of the seafarers. Okay, so this was directly news because India and Iran directly signed a memorandum of understanding, that is an MOU, that facilitates the movement of the seafarers. And who are the seafarers? The individuals who travel directly by the seas. Okay, so the MOU was signed between the Union Minister of Ports, Shipping and Waterways of India and supposedly we can see over here Sarvanand Sonwalji, and this MOU directly recognizes the certificates of competency in unlimited voyages that can directly aid the seafarers of both the nations according to the provisions that are set up under the International Convention on the Standards of Training, Certification as well as watch keeping for seafarers of 1978. ओके ये हम लोग शॉर्ट में क्या बोलते हैं इसको STCW. ओके दैट इज द स्टैंडर्ड्स ऑफ ट्रेनिंग सर्टिफिकेशन एंड वॉच कीपिंग फॉर सीफेयरर्स. ये क्या चीज है? सपोज इफ आई टेल यू अबाउट द इंटरनेशनल कन्वेंशन ऑन STCW, ये अडॉप्ट किया गया था अराउंड 1978. ओके एट द इंटरनेशनल मैरिटाइम ऑर्गेनाइजेशन IMO. ओके और ये कहाँ अडॉप्ट किया गया था? लंदन में. ओके but it gradually was not did not came into force, which later on came into force around 1984. Okay, this convention was the very first to put the basic requirements of training, certification as well as watch keeping for the seafarers at a global level. इससे पहले क्या था? national level में था. global level में, international level में ये सब नहीं था. And hence before signing of this particular convention we can see that the standard of जो ट्रेनिंग था, ये मैंने क्या बोला, इट्स डायरेक्टली ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ द इंडिविजुअल कंट्रीज. Okay, so we could see that the key outcomes of this respective deal or this understanding, you can see about that the importance and the development of the Chabahar port was also reiterated in this meeting. Chabahar port, ये वाला port है. Okay, we are directly developing this Chabahar port just to connect our particular cargo directly coming in from here till Chabahar port, and by connecting through Afghanistan we can reach to Central Asia. Even Chabahar port is a very important port with the INSTC international north-south transport corridor. So in every particular respect, the development of the Chabahar port would lead to an increase in trade and shipment volume between India as well as Iran. Okay, you can even see that recently India sent around 75,000 tons of wheat to Afghanistan as a part of the humanitarian aid that was in 2020 around. Okay, and that was sent through the Chabahar port. Okay, also India directly in current times supplied around 40,000 liters of malathion. Malathion kya hai? It is directly some of the pesticides, okay, that was sent to Iran through the Chabahar port to directly arrest the issue of what? The locust attacks. Okay, locust is directly a pest. It directly attacks on the agricultural produce. Okay, so thereby हम लोग ने क्या किया? The very address of this locust is being through this pesticide which is known as malathion. So in this respective sense, I can directly say that this locust attacks which directly destroy the crops is a very important pesticides, or amongst the pesticides, this malathion is a very important pesticides to directly control the inflow of the locust in this respective agricultural produces. So overall इसमें क्या बताया जाता है कि like the signing of this MOU between India and Iran, which directly aims to smoothen the movement of seafarers between the two countries, will provide impetus to strengthen the overall bilateral cooperation between the two countries. So in every aspects today we are seeing that this type of cooperation is an enhancement of the India-Iran relations, because with such number of enhancements we are much more focusing towards every particular aspects that how we can directly make Iran to be a very supplier of our particular gaseous resources, our particular oil resources, and everything to make Iran as a suitable transit corridor directly to connect India's ambitions towards the Central Asian regions. तो इसीलिए ये सब फैक्ट हम लोग लाए गए थे. Okay, so this is the first topics that we have seen. Coming to the next topic about tomato flu. ओके, टोमेटो फ्लू ये बहुत ज्यादा न्यूज में है अभी. ओके, सो अभी इंडिया में बहुत ज्यादा चिल्ड्रंस के यहाँ पे डिटेक्ट हुआ गया है. ठीक है, तो विल बेसिकली नो अबाउट व्हाट इज टोमेटो फ्लू. सो द टोमेटो फ्लू, इट अफेक्ट्स द चिल्ड्रन बिलो द 5 years of age. हम लोग ने कल देखा था अबाउट द पोलियो वायरस, उसको भी बिलो 5 years of age बहुत अफेक्ट करते हैं, बिकॉज एट दैट पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम वी नो द चिल्ड्रन डज नॉट हैव गॉट अ गुड इम्यूनिटी। तो इसीलिए लोग जो वायरसेस होता है वो वायरसेस इमीडिएटली अटैक कर देते हैं। तो दिस फ्लू इट अफेक्ट्स चिल्ड्रन बिलो द एज ऑफ 5 years। इसका सिम्टम्स क्या क्या होता है? इट कैन सी दैट द टोमेटो फ्लू also known as tomato fever, okay, it includes rashes, skin irritation as well as dehydration. Okay, this flu has also an additional load of what? Tiredness, joint pain, stomach cramps, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, coughing, sneezing, runny nose, high fever, and also body aches. And in some of the cases, some of the adverse cases, it may also change the color of the legs as well as the hands. This flu is a very self-limiting one, and there is no specific drug for this. That means the symptoms will resolve over time on their own if supportive care is given. So we could only go for some type of supportive care in this respective flu, which is known as tomato flu. Because we know that like other cases of flu mein kya hota? Flus are very contagious. So this flu is also very much contagious, because if someone is infected with this flu and they are very need to kept in isolation, as this could be very much spreading rapidly from one person to the other. And thereby it is very much essential to prevent children from even scratching the blisters caused by the flu. Okay, ऐसे ऐसे करके बॉडी में ऐसे ऐसे करके छोटा छोटा करके ऐसे ब्लिस्टर्स निकल के आते हैं. Okay, blisters caused by the flu. And proper rest hygiene is also very advised. जो utensils होते हैं, जो clothings होते हैं, and various number of other items that was used by these infected persons, it must be sanitized and prevent the flu from directly spreading from one children to the other. ओके इसमें क्या होता है? सिंस डिहाइड्रेशन ज्यादा होता है तो बॉडी से फ्लूइड लॉस होता है, तो फ्लूइड इंटेक वुड आल्सो हेल्प टू काउंटरएक्ट डिहाइड्रेशन. And most importantly, it is very much advisable that who is directly going with such number of flus today, it is very much advisable to seek some of the doctor's advice if you notice some of the symptoms that I have directly discussed today. Okay, so this is directly a respective understanding of the tomato flu today, about the tomato flu, which is totally in a very rapid increase today in our respective neighborhoods. Okay, so this is all about a tomato flu excess. Next, about the overseas investments. See, today the Indians are directly getting more and more attracted towards investing overseas. Okay, and hence there are various type of norms that are being created by the respective government so as to ease out such number of investment by the Indians in some number of overseas areas. Okay, see, what is directly making the Indians invest abroad is that several factors are there. Supposedly, we can see that the most common reason is the slow and sluggish real estate market in India. Okay, and the overall high pricing in India's metros, various government policies, poor growth potential, inferior infrastructure, and various number of bad rental returns are some of the other factors which directly contribute people to go for overseas investments. Supposedly, if I cite an example over here, for a sum of rupees 45 lakhs, a property investor can purchase a full furnished condominium in Malaysia or Thailand, and that too at a very prime location. Not only does this offers a great lifestyle to this respective investor, but it will also be an opportunity to earn at least 10% net rentals. On the contrary, if you see in towards India, the same amount would be fetched by a 1 BHK somewhere in the outskirts of New Delhi or in the outskirts of Mumbai. So if I have to directly come towards the city area, I have to go in crores. So therefore, you can see that some of the high net worth individuals are opting for property options overseas instead of buying a holiday home in the hills or near the beaches of our country. Okay, and getting a premier property is directly a what? Tourist destination that would cost the same as a 2 BHK prime 2 BHK flat directly in some of the prime locations like Delhi and Mumbai. Okay, and therefore you can see that besides this lifestyle and rental returns, ये तो एक issue है ही. Okay, कि lifestyle सही है, rental returns सही है. Also for Indians to invest overseas is their children who are studying abroad. तो वो लोग ज़्यादा जाते हैं. Because also owning a second home overseas is not just a good investment, but the home itself can be handed over to professionals for maintenance and rent. Okay, because of the respective conditions that is prevailing in such number of countries. Okay, and also we know that some countries also offer citizenship status to some of the investors. और आज हम लोग देखेंगे कि like people are directly renouncing the citizenship of India more. और लोग यूएस ज्यादा ट्रेवल कर रहे हैं, लोग आउटसाइड कंट्रीज का सिटीजनशिप ज्यादा ले रहे हैं. क्यों? बिकॉज ऑफ सच नंबर ऑफ प्रैक्टिसेस दैट इज बीइंग फॉलोड इन द रेस्पेक्टिव कंट्रीज. ओके, ऑल्सो मैंने क्या बोला था यहाँ पे कि सम कंट्रीज ऑफर सिटीजनशिप. तो मतलब क्या? सर्टेन कंट्रीज इन द वर्ल्ड दे ऑफर परमानेंट सिटीजनशिप, permanent residency status if you are directly owning a property there. Hence state investments, which could be a good way for aspiring immigrants to gain easy access to residency in such number of countries. Okay, so therefore today, because of the increased number of overseas investments, the government is directly coming up with various number of liberations, so that this number of investments should be more easy as compared to the earlier times. Okay, and also because to make less number of defaulters under the investment agencies, we could see that government is slowly trying to directly liberate such number of areas, so that the products that are linked to the Indian rupee could be very much well emancipated in the outside world. Okay, and therefore we can see that in the global market today, there is a need of the Indian corporations to be a part of the global value chain because of the India's increased economic activities, increased economical growth, and India's aspirations to become a 5 trillion economy. Okay, so in every particular ways today, the India is directly going towards such number of countries so as they can directly invest in such number of overseas areas, so that they could have a good returns in associated with the all other factors that I have mentioned in the analysis. Okay, so this was about the overseas investment. Coming to the next one, challenges to the Indian tea industry. ओके, अगर मैं यहाँ पे अभी टी इंडस्ट्रीज की बात बोलूं, ओके, यू कैन सी अबाउट दैट टुडे द exports of the tea industries are slowly going down because of some of the cheap tea directly is producing from some of the countries like Kenya. Okay, some of the countries like Kenya, some of the countries like the Vietnam. Okay, some of the countries like of the underdeveloped Africa. Okay, so you could see that recently there is a particular news. Okay, ये मैंने बोल रहा हूँ around I'm telling about January to July 2021. Okay, that is the first 7 months. अगर मैं पिछले साल का first 7 months देख लूं, तो the exports of tea from India registered a decline of around 14.4% from the last year. मतलब ये 2021 का बात बोल रहा हूँ. Okay, that is compared to the 2020. 2020 के बात बोलूं in comparison to 2021, so we can see a 14.4% decrease of the tea exports directly from India. Okay, so we know that today if you see about the reasons of decline, कि यहाँ पे हम लोग decline क्यों हो रहे हैं, तो there are various number of reasons. Okay, खाली एक reasons नहीं होता है. ठीक है, maybe the UN sanctions on Iran is a major hindrance, क्योंकि exports to Iran, which was once a big buyer of Indian tea, was lowered due to the sanctions by the US. इसीलिए नंबर 1 पॉइंट में डिक्लाइन हो गया. इसके बाद नॉन अवेलेबिलिटी ऑफ कंटेनर्स. दैट मींस द कंटेनर्स और द शिपिंग कंटेनर्स हैव बिकम वेरी एक्सपेंसिव ड्यूरिंग द कोविड टाइम्स. तो जहां पे हम लोग टी स्टोर करके लेके जाते हैं वो बहुत ज्यादा महंगा हो रहा है, तो हम लोग लेस खरीद कर रहे हैं. ठीक है, ऑल्सो द अवेलेबिलिटी ऑफ द लो कॉस्ट वेराइटीज. That means in the global market, we can see some number of low quality tea or low cost variety tea are directly being eligible. Okay, तो यहाँ पे मैंने जो बोला है केनिया से आता है, ठीक है, श्रीलंका से आता है, offered by this number of countries, because उनका जो average price है it's much less than the Indian auction average. उसके बाद और क्या चीज है? Increase number of people in the domestic consumption. Today, if you see in our country, about 80% of the tea produced in India is sold for domestic consumption, and some of the hardly 20% are directly exported. Also, Pakistan भी एक और reason है. किस लिए? Because we know that exports to Pakistan was a major market for Indian tea, which have also stopped since the last 3 years following the escalation of tension between the two countries, and India directly went there indirectly doing some of the airstrikes. Okay, also the coronavirus induced economy has resulted in several commodities low production imbalance mechanisms, so which has impacted the export of India's tea along with other significant regions like the retrieval of the respective economy of the tea centers. तो वहां पे टी कम प्रोड्यूस हो रहा है. Okay, because the tea laborers are paidless. Okay, so वहां पे उन लोग का प्रॉब्लम है. Okay, even the climatic conditions are also affected. So in every particular sense today we can see, because of the competition directly growing on, And because of the tensions created all over the world, be it the Iran issue, be it the Ukrainian issue, be it the Pakistani issue, everywhere we have been impacted by the less export of the tea in our country. Okay, so if I say about some of the basics associated with the tea, so tea kya hai? It's a beverage made from the Camellia sinensis plant. Okay, ये चीज important है, and it is the most consumed drink afterward. इसका origination कहाँ हुआ था? It is believed that tea originated in the northeast India, North Myanmar, and southwest China. Okay, but the exact place where the plant first grew is not known, at least. Okay, and there is a particular evidence that tea was consumed firstly in China around 5,000 years ago. ओके तो इसका दो तीन कंडीशंस है ग्रोथ के लिए, जैसे क्लाइमेट, टी इज डायरेक्टली ग्रोड इन सम ऑफ द ट्रॉपिकल एंड सब ट्रॉपिकल प्लांट एंड ग्रोज वेल इवन इन हॉट एंड ह्यूमिड क्लाइमेट, जस्ट लाइक असम, जस्ट लाइक सम ऑफ द एरियाज वेयर इट इज डायरेक्टली ग्रोन इन तमिलनाडु. सो यू कैन सी टेम्परेचर डायरेक्टली, आइडियल टेम्परेचर क्या होता है 20 से 30 डिग्री सेल्सियस. ओके, एंड अबव 35 डिग्री सेल्सियस ऑल्सो इट इज ऑल ओके. Okay, so we can see that rainfall also is very much required. 150 to 300 centimeter annual rainfall should be well distributed throughout the year. इसके बाद soil क्या चाहिए? The most suitable soil for tea cultivation is slightly acidic soil, that is without calcium, that is with going porous subsoil which permits a free percolation of water. Okay, तो यहाँ पे slightly acidic चाहिए. Okay, so today we know that India is the largest consumer of the tea in the world and the second largest producer of the tea in the world. Okay, so China being the largest producer today, अभी क्या हो रहा है? Because of Sri Lanka's quality of the things that is being produced, because आज Sri Lanka बहुत cheap quantity का cheap, because of the same quality they are directly going for some of the cheap market value. So therefore we can see China is directly topping the world's largest producer of tea. उसके बाद आता है श्रीलंका today, and हमारा इंडिया क्या हो रहा है? It slipped to the third position. Okay, with we can see about that at present it ranks third among the tea exporting country in the world after Sri Lanka and China. Okay, so therefore we know even one more thing associated over here, that the International Tea Day, ये कब हम लोग करते हैं? 21st May. 21st May is directly observed as an International Tea Day by the United Nations General Assembly, that is the UNGA. और हम लोग का मेजर टी प्रोड्यूसिंग जगह कौन सा इंडिया में? एक होता है दार्जिलिंग, okay, northeast India, Assam for northeast India, then you can see about the Nilgiri, that is in the south India. Okay, और ये तीनों का जो भी टी प्रोडक्शन होता है, they are very much different in the style as well as flavor. जो फ्लेवर होता है और जो स्टाइल होता है वो डिफरेंट होता है. Okay, so today many number of people are directly engaged. Supposedly we can see the tea industry accommodates 11 lakh direct workforce and 40 lakh people indirectly dependent. That means it is directly a more resourceful industry today in our country. तो ये जो एक्सपोर्ट इंपोर्ट हम लोग का थोड़ा बंद हो रहा है, एक्सपोर्ट बंद हो रहा है, बिकॉज टुडे वी कैन सी वी आर इवन इंपोर्टिंग टी डायरेक्टली फ्रॉम सम ऑफ द अदर कंट्रीज. सो देयरफॉर ये जो हम लोग का आज हम लोग एक्सपोर्ट कम कर रहे हैं, इंपोर्ट भी ज्यादा धीरे धीरे बढ़ रहा है, तो वी कैन सी दैट वी हैव टू डायरेक्टली टैकल सच नंबर ऑफ चैलेंजेस. Okay, we have to produce the quality of soil, we have to directly sell it in some of the right markets conditions. Because if such number of industries directly posing a challenge, that is directly posing to many and many number of people directly dependent on such industry for its livelihoods. Okay, तो ये था एक discussion with respectively to the tea industries. Next पे आता है privatization of the PSBs, that is the private sector banks. तो when I say about the privatization क्या होता है? The transfer of ownership, property or business from the government to the private sector is termed privatization. Okay, and the government ceases to be the owner or the entity of the business. And ये क्यों करते हैं privatization? The objective is to bring more efficiency and objectivity to the company. Okay, so the privatization, India went for privatization in the historic reforms budget of 1991, also known as the new economic policy or the LPG policy. तो हम लोग privatization हम लोग जानते हैं, लेकिन if I see with respective to the banks, तो the government decided to nationalize the 14 largest private banks in 1969, and the idea was to align क्या? The banking sector with the socialistic approach of the then government. Okay, and we know that the State Bank of India had been nationalized in 1955 itself, and the insurance sector in the 1956. But various government in the last 20 years were directly is going against privatization of the public sector bankings. But in 2015, the government had suggested even privatization, but the then Reserve Bank of India governor did not favor the respective idea. So today we can see the center has announced various number of privatization plan for this respective public sector banks. ये reasons क्या है privatization का? Supposedly today we can see this public sector banks are directly degrading some of the financial position. Okay, many of them are directly under stress assets ये stress assets हो गया है आजकल. Many of them are a part of a long-term project. Okay, are a part of the long-term project which directly envisages only a handful of the state-owned banks. Okay, also you can see that to strengthen the banks, okay, and also to minimize their losses, this privatization step is a very necessity element. Okay, also various number of committees has also suggested. Supposedly, if I say about the Narasimhan committee, who proposed 33% of the stake directly given to the private entities, that the PJ Nayak committee, he too suggested 50%. Okay, even an RBI working group recently suggested the entry of the business houses in the banking sector. Okay, so therefore we need to privatize the bank, but also there is various number of issues also. Okay, because the privatization of the public sector blends is tantamount to selling the banks to some of the private corporates, which directly reverts what? Crony capitalism. उसके बाद job losses है, because the privatization will also result in job losses, branch closures, financial exclusion, वो सब होगा. ठीक है, उसके बाद the privatization will also shrink the employment opportunities for the scheduled class, scheduled tribes, other backward class, since the private sector does not follow these reservation policies. Okay, also the financial exclusion of the weaker sections will be totally at risk. Okay, because public sector banks were taking banking to the rural areas and ensuring financial inclusion. Lekin aaj, the private sector banks, you cannot see a good number of private sector banks in the rural areas. Okay, so therefore the governance and the management of the PSBs has to improve. And if I go with the outlining of the PJ Nayak committee report, which recommended the distancing between the government and top public sector appointments, today we can see, rather than going with some of the blind privatization techniques, PNB can be made into corporations like the LIC, Life Insurance Corporation, while maintaining government ownership, and thus will give more autonomy to the respective PSBs. So in this respective case, privatization is good, but we have to directly mandate a ratio between all such number of issues that directly is emerging when a private sector bank is directly being privatized. Okay, so we have got various number of data. यहाँ पे picture में तुम लोग देख सकते हो कि what is the tendency of loss making, what is the ratio of the non-performing assets, which are the banks directly going in for some number of losses, how rapid privatization may be very much of harmful for a public sector bank. So in every particular sense, today we can see that though there is a good number of importance of the PSBs, but still we need to privatize to encourage the losses made by these public sector banks in the real-time scenario that is in today's world. Okay, तो ये एक था about the privatization of the PSBs. आते हैं last में, from Amrit Kal to agriculture. You can see about the Amrit Kal in agriculture. Okay, so when I go with such number of things, यहाँ पे मेरा एक famous slogan याद आता है, किसका पता है? We directly remember over here late Lal Bahadur Shastri ji, who was our second prime minister, okay, who died in some of the uncertain conditions in Tashkent. Okay, so उनका एक slogan याद आता है, जय जवान जय किसान, जय जवान जय किसान. Okay, which was extended by Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji to include even Jai Vigyan. Okay, two prominent leaders. Okay, एक बोलते हैं जय जवान जय किसान, और दूसरे अटल बिहारी वाजपेयी जी, वो उन्होंने बोल दिया था जय विज्ञान. और अभी हमारे प्यारे मोदी जी क्या बोल रहे हैं? इट डायरेक्टली इज इवन एक्सटेंडेड टू जय अनुसंधान. तो अभी ये मोदी जी क्या बोल के रहे हैं कि जय जवान जय किसान, जय विज्ञान, एंड इवन जय अनुसंधान. ओके, सो देयरफॉर द इनोवेशंस, अनुसंधान मतलब क्या? इनोवेशंस. The innovations or the anusandhans that are needed to be made in the agri-food space by 2047 to have a well-fed India with zero hunger, almost no malnutrition, climate resilience, high income for our farmers. तो ये किसमें आता है? जय अनुसंधान, which is an extension of the famous slogan of late Lal Bahadur Shastri, Jai Jawan Jai Kisan, extended by Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji to include Jai Vigyan, and now Prime Minister Narendra Modi to Jai Anusandhan. Okay, so therefore, with zero hunger, almost no malnutrition, climate resilience, and high income for our farmers, we have got our Amrit Kal in agriculture. So in his respective contents, he even talked about the India being a tropical country, which is endowed with a plenty of solar energy. So here, the exploitation of the solar energy becomes an important component of the renewable energy sector today in our country. Because today we know that about 5,000 trillion kilowatt per hour per year energy is incident over India's land area, with parts receiving around 4 to 7 kilowatt hour per square kilometer per day. And today we know that Karnataka directly leads the India's list of states producing the highest number of solar energy. That is the solar power with a capacity of around 7,100 megawatt. 7,100 megawatt. उसके बाद followed by this Telangana, Rajasthan, Andhra Pradesh, Gujarat, ये सब आते हैं, लेकिन कर्नाटका टॉप ही है. Today we also know that India is now the fourth largest solar producer power in the world. Because today, if I talk about this International Solar Alliance, which is a joint cooperation of India as well as France, which directly aims to promote solar energy in some around 121 member countries, which even India has some of the targets associated with producing 100 gigawatt directly from solar energy. Total हम लोग का 175 gigawatts है, लेकिन 100 gigawatt कहाँ से आएगा? From solar energy. Okay, because the other ones will go from various number of things such as the rooftop solar energy. Then we'll go also for supposedly अगर इस 100 gigawatt में मैं अगर दो भाग में इसको डिवाइड कर दूं तो एक आता है 40, एक आता है 60. 40 कहां से आएगा? रूफटॉप सोलर एनर्जी. और 60 gigawatt कहां से आएगा? ग्राउंड माउंटेड यूटिलिटी स्केल. ओके, ये रूफटॉप से आएगा, ये ग्राउंड से आएगा. Okay, so in the recent trends also we have seen more focused towards poultry and fishes. You can see it in the next thing. Okay, poultry average annual growth rates of the gross value output. यहाँ पे poultry meat में हम लोग का है, fisheries में है, pulses में है, dairy, horticulture. You can see all this number of areas where we can see the recent trends of this Amrit Kal in agriculture is directly focused upon. सोलर एनर्जी में तो फोकस करेंगे ही करेंगे, उसके ऊपर हम लोग को इसमें भी फोकस करना पड़ेगा. दैट इज पोल्ट्री एंड फिशेस, मोर इंटरवेंशन इन द सीरियल्स. Okay, then even the policy implications to directly go for a revolutionary growth in agriculture. Okay, so all these things needs to be determined today, because today the government is directly following the 5 dimensions, that is production, marketing, consumption, environmental sustainability and nutritional outcomes. Okay, और उसके बाद गवर्नमेंट का बहुत सारा प्लान्स है, that is even to arrest the decline in groundwater. Then also food system to be a composite entity. Obviously, digitization of the agricultural practices, value chain, high value agriculture, ये सब हम लोग का ये है. Then even in India's initiative to shift towards renewable energy, खाली नेशनल सोलर मिशन में ही हम लोग फोकस नहीं कर रहे. हम लोग क्या फोकस कर रहे हैं? विंड एनर्जी रिवोल्यूशन में, नेशनल बायोफ्यूल्स पॉलिसी में डिपेंड कर रहे हैं, स्मॉल हाइड्रो पावर्स में डिपेंड कर रहे हैं, नेशनल हाइड्रोजन एनर्जी मिशन में कर रहे हैं, नेशनल बायोफ्यूल्स पॉलिसी में कर रहे हैं. So solar energy, to make it as a third crop today, हम लोग solar energy को क्या कर रहे हैं? Third crop. So that we can directly use such number of innovations so that the solar energy could be very much harnessed well in our country. Because in the country like India, which is totally a tropical country, which directly receives a good amount of sunlight, so in this respective country, we can directly go for a particular phrase of har khet mein saur urja. That means solar power in every farmer's field. Okay, because this particular campaign may directly help in a wider scale annotations of the solar energy, which may directly become a third crop for India. Okay, in terms of wheat as well as rice. तो ये third crop के basis में हम लोग को promote करना पड़ेगा, so that we could directly lead the basic team of the countries which are very much focused towards the renewable sources of energy and who is directly thinking of becoming a carbon neutral country by the end of 2070. So in these respective cases, we can see the Amrit Kal in agriculture is a real-time scenario where even the Har Khet Mein Saur Urja, that is the solar power in every farmer's field, is a basic necessity today, just to make India dependent more on renewable energy as compared to the non-renewable energies. Okay, so this was the basic analysis of the Amrit Kal. Okay, Amrit Kal in agriculture, but we have seen in the editorial today. Okay, so this is all for today. These are the 5 questions you can directly attempt. Okay, the answers you will get in the Telegram channel of us. We have one mains question also. Okay, so thank you all for today. Jai Hind.